Okay, Zachary's question is up next. He says, my wife and I have 40% of our income freed up when we become debt-free in October, which is so exciting. So he says, we plan to save 25% of our income for retirement, but how would you use that extra 15% of income afterwards?
Okay, I got to think about this. 40% of income freed up when they pay off their debt.
So that must be going toward debt right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I want to pause there. Now, Zachary, this is not a cautionary tale for you, but this is a cautionary tale for everyone else. When I hear someone is in a position where 40% of their income is going to be freed up, that sounds amazing, and that's going to be awesome once you get there. But what I hear in the back of my mind is, man, I got into a situation where my debt load was pretty aggressive. It was eating up 40% of my money, 40% of my income. It's the reason why we have all the rules of thumb that we talk about. When it comes to housing expenses, you don't want it to be more than 25% of your gross income. When it comes to car payments, you don't want to be 8%. And then when you add up all the debt that you service, when you add up your car loans, your auto loans, your housing, student loans, everything, you don't want your debt service to cross over that 35% mark of your total income. So when I hear that you're at 40%, I'm like, oh, okay, we weren't in a great spot. But now, so the cautionary tale is, try, if you can, at the stage of life that you're in, not to let your total debt load exceed 35%. So now the question is, okay, when we get this paid off, and it's in the near future?
Yeah, in October. So
in October,
pretty soon.
when we get this paid off.
Within the year.
We need to do something with this capital. And so what they said was the first thing they're going to do?
Invest 25% to retirement, just like you guys would say.
What do they do with it? Now, did Zachary give us his age?
Yeah, well, I've got some thoughts on this. Is that, first of all, because I mean, the easy answer is that you look at the financial order of operations, go to moneyguy.com/resources. I know a lot of people go immediately default and say, hey, he's probably it's step 8, so he can start doing whatever the heck he wants to do with his money. And that is true if he first asks himself this question. Because I took this a little different way. I love the thought that you were thinking about he had a lot of debt. But I've also seen a lot of people out there that become debt crusaders.
I wondered that too, like where they just
they get
really
so
aggressive.
excited that maybe they paid off some credit card debts, or they paid off student loan debt. Yeah. And they get so excited with paying off debt because there's a lot of people in the financial space that really focus on this whole debt thing.
Yeah.
Even when debt has had historically low interest rates, in the years past, I just want to make sure that you're not still behind the curve, because that 40%, because as somebody who paid off their low interest mortgage super early, I'm talking about somebody who's in their 30s, maybe even early 40s, and they're like, man, I rock this thing. Now I've got 40% of my income. I want you, we have two illustrations. I want you to go to moneyguy.com/resources. We have, what will 25% do for you on savings rate?
30 years old. They said they are debt crusaders.
Yeah, so they're debt crusaders. So you need to see what 25%, because now you need to know, are you behind the curve, ahead of the curve, or right on the curve? Now look, paying off debt is incredible, but I got to tell you, all your peers, the financial mutant versions of yourself who weren't debt crusaders, they were saving and investing. And we're doing a show right after this. It's going to show the power of that person that was saving and investing from the age of 20 to 30 versus the person that saved and invested from 30 to 65. And you're going to be shocked to see what the 20 to 30-year-old had the opportunity, because their money is just worth so much. So you need to go to learn.moneyguy.com to look at the Know Your Number course that we have to figure out how far behind you are, because maybe you have to. Now, fortunately, at 30 years of age, 25% is probably going to still do a lot for you. But there are other people that are going to be debt crusaders who might be a little later to the party, and that 25% might now need to be 30% or 35% because you find that you're a little behind the curve on where your assets, your army of dollar bills should be. So you have to answer that question. Are you behind? Are you ahead of the schedule? Assuming that you're ahead of schedule, and you being 30 is going to give you a lot of grace, you then can get to step 8 of prepaid future expenses or abundance goals, whereas beyond saving and investing 25%, you can start, making decisions. This is where you save for the kids' education. If you want to become a real estate entrepreneur, if you want to buy the nicer car or live in a little bit nicer house, or even be a debt crusader, that's where I would tell my financial mutants, if you want to be a debt crusader, and you're in your 20s or 30s, I love it being a step 8 activity, because then you're not walking away from what your money, that wealth multiplier effect that is so powerful while you're young.
Love it. I'm gonna just throw one other thing out there. This is more just me and you lamenting for a moment. People in the comments, they're like, "Oh, these guys, they just love debt. Oh, they just love debt."
No, that's actually, I'm the opposite.
It's not true at all. But here's what I do love. I love math. I love optimization. I love efficiency. I love reaching goals in the most effective and efficient manner possible. And my opinion, and also supported by the facts, is that for young folks, it's easier to do that by accumulating wealth than satisfying debt, especially low interest debt. So we're not debt lovers. We just, we recognize math.
I think anybody who reads Millionaire Mission will see a lot of my regrets in here. And everybody, I've been very transparent about it, and I actually did the math within the book. And the last chapter of this book is actually what I do with my money specifically. So if you just want to be a person nosy and know what I do, it's going to be in the book. But I do share some regrets in the book. And one of them is that there were a few years I didn't max out my Roth IRA in my 20s. Now, I had some unique things going on with starting a business, growing a family. So, I mean, when you're got a sinking ship and you're trying to figure out where you're bailing out the water, you start throwing out really important stuff like Roth IRA contributions, even in those dark moments. But I've actually nerdy enough that I've gone and figured out what my rate of return was for my actual assets I invested. This is not pretend where I just grabbed 10% out of the air and said, hey, that's what the market's done historically. I actually calculated what my rate of return has been since I started investing, applied that to the Roth IRA contributions that I did not make. That's that opportunity cost lost. And guys, you'd be shocked.
If you want to know what the number is,
the numbers are big. I mean, it's bad. It's bad now because I'm 50 years of age, but it's even worse if you look at what I took for myself at retirement. So, and by the way, Zachary's going to be fine. I can already tell he's a financial mutant and he's doing great things. But I would not be. It's the same reason my youngest daughter, she's like, Dad, why are you being so mean to me? I'm like, I'm not being mean to you. When I give you advice, it's going to make you better at doing things in the future. I'm just being a father. And that's what I feel like I'm being an educator for the masses when I try to share with you. There's get wealthy behaviors and then there's stay wealthy behaviors. Without a doubt, being completely debt-free is a stay wealthy behavior because it's de-risking your life. But there's a huge risk for all my 20 and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds is you got to get wealthy. Just because you have the components of a good income and the desire to save and invest, if you don't actually get the money in the investment accounts and actually let your army of dollar bills start growing and recruiting and growing, and building more and more on top of themselves, then you really missed out on the most powerful resource of the three ingredients. Remember, there's discipline. That's that deferred gratification that a lot of financial mutants have. That creates the margin that equals the money, the second ingredient. But the most powerful one is time. That's why if you go to moneyguy.com/resources, look at our wealth multiplier tool and see what $1 can do for you.